It's Stampede Week here in Canada and more importantly in Alberta. And this week, while Canadians are line dancing, flipping flapjacks, and tossing back rye at the Calgary Stampede, there's something much bigger boiling beneath the cowboy hats. Alberta is not just celebrating this week. They're celebrating themselves. They're celebrating their future and what could become. There's a rumble in Alberta, and that rumble, it's the sound of a province that's done playing along. Because the people of Alberta are angry, deep, structural, generationally angry. And if Ottawa doesn't wake up soon, and they probably won't under a Liberal government, they might not just protest, they might pack up, take their cowboy hats and boots, their horses, and leave. That's right. We're talking about Alberta separation today, and not as any kind of a joke, not as some kind of fringe fantasy, but as a serious possibility Liberals need to take real account of. And if you think this is all just cowboy cosplay and bumper sticker rage, then buckle up, because you're about to see just how real this is. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Premier Daniel Smith argues a recent by-election is proof Alberta's separatist movement has never had more support, pointing to one rural riding where the Alberta Republican Party earned about 17% of the vote.
I take that seriously, and I hope that the federal government takes that seriously.
Smith believes separatist sentiments were created by Ottawa. She argues it's up to the federal government to fix it, pitching proposals like coast-to-coast oil and gas shipping access.
If they make the changes that we're requesting, then I suspect they can take the air out of that movement.
Federal Minister Chrystia Freeland also spoke at the Calgary News Conference. She points to incoming legislation that gives Ottawa the power to fast-track projects intended to boost the national economy. She says Ottawa wants to build with Alberta.
That's going to be great for Alberta. It's going to be great for all of Canada. And I think that's actually what Albertans want. I think it's what Canadians want.
Former Deputy Premier Thomas Lukaszuk says he believes the Alberta Republican Party failed to snag a seat in the legislature for a reason.
They want this talking about separatism, sovereignty, becoming a 51st state, all of that. They just don't want to hear about this anymore.
But leader Cameron Davies is undeterred, arguing the fledgling party made progress.
If we'd walked away with 3 or 4%, like most independence candidates have done over the last 20, 30 years, then I'd have a different story.
Meanwhile, Lukaszuk expects a decision from Elections Alberta this week regarding his plight to stop talks of Alberta separation. He wants a referendum petition approved that asks if people agree Alberta must remain in Canada and any form of separation be rejected.
This petition will hopefully put an end to this, and there will be a very clear message from Canadians living in Alberta.
Smith believes desire to leave Canada has never been greater. When asked what her government could do to ease concerns, she pointed back to the federal government.
This is really in Ottawa's hands.
Morgan Black, Global News.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. How did we get here? I'm Chris Baker, and let's rewind. How did Alberta, one of the most productive, innovative, and economically vital provinces to the country of Canada, end up at the edge of the exit door? Simple. The Liberal government. Ottawa took the West for granted for decades under Liberal rule. Alberta has paid billions and billions in equalization payments to support provinces like Quebec. And what did they get in return? Canceled pipelines, Bill C-69, a punitive carbon tax, media spin, smug lectures from Liberal ministers who've never even been out there, who couldn't tell a drill rig from a donut shop. And now, under Mark Carney's rule, the new Liberal regime is just Trudeau 2.0 in better fitted suit and perhaps knows how to use a calculator better. Alberta's energy is vilified, its workforce ignored, its values mocked, its needs completely dismissed. This isn't just neglect. This is political gaslighting. And now the West is done waiting for respect that never comes. Enough is enough. And guess what, West? I'm with you. The three paths that this Western separation could take are all a little bit scary, but all could be done. So where does Alberta go from here? Well, option one, Alberta could actually join. They could take up this 51st state idea. They could actually join as the 51st state to the U.S. It sounds dramatic, but don't underestimate it. Albertans already trade more with the U.S. than any other province. Their political culture is closer to Texas than anywhere near Toronto, but constitutionally, it's a real long shot, this one. It would actually take U.S. congressional approval and constitutional changes in Canada to make that happen. So while it's symbolically appealing, it's practically a dead end. So that's option one. Option two is that Alberta would become its own independent nation. Now this has traction. A sovereign Alberta could control its oil, its taxes, its borders, and its trade deals. It would be tough, but it certainly wouldn't be impossible. They'd need a military, though, a currency strategy, and global recognition. But Alberta is wealthy enough and resource rich enough to actually pull that off with the right leadership. And perhaps Danielle Smith is that person. Option number three, Alberta stays in Canada. On new terms, though. This is what most reasonable Canadians would probably want: reform, respect for once, and a reset of the relationship, which will take time, and it will take time to build trust. But for that to happen, the Liberal grip on federal power must be broken. Because as long as Mark Carney and the Liberals are running Canada, Alberta will always be Ottawa's golden goose and its favorite punching bag. So really, for that to happen, we really can't have a Liberal government still in power. And some of you might ask, is separation even legal anyway? Because we get this argument from Liberals all the time. The truth is, yes, it is. It's rare, it's difficult, but it's actually legal. The Supreme Court of Canada ruled after the 1995 Quebec referendum that if a province votes clearly to separate, the federal government must negotiate in good faith with them to do so. So if Alberta holds a referendum, and they're already holding many ones, and the people vote yes, Canada doesn't get to say no. They don't get to just turn around and say, no, you're staying. They have to come to the table. They have to talk. And polls show that support for separation in Alberta is not fringe anymore. It's nearly half the province, and it's growing even bigger than that. So some of you might be sitting there going, what happens to Canada if Alberta leaves? Now, if you're a Liberal supporter, you're probably sitting there not caring at all. You probably don't think anything happens because you don't pay attention. But here are the things, and here's how it gets real. If Alberta leaves, Canada as we know it essentially collapses economically. Here's what we're talking about: the loss of a quarter of Canada's oil production. Think about that. There will also be lost billions in lost tax revenue, the destruction of equalization funding as we know it, an identity crisis at home, and a credibility crisis all around the world. Those are the basics. But we'd also lose a province that punches way above its weight class on everything from exports to entrepreneurship. No other province does what Alberta does for us. But some Liberals, they just shrug and say, let them go. We've got Northern Ontario. We've got Northern Quebec. There's lithium, for God's sake. There's nickel. We'll replace Alberta. Back to my coffee. Really? Replacing Alberta with Northern Ontario or Quebec? I'll tell you what that's like. That's like trading your F-250 for a Cybertruck. One is known to do the job and still does it today. The other pretends to be a truck, masks itself as a shinier-looking resource, but the truth is it's driven by Rosemary Barton at the CBC and bursts into flames the moment it nudges the parking pillar in the CBC parking lot. It's all a fantasy. Yes, those minerals do exist in Northern Ontario. Yes, they do exist in Quebec, but they're locked in the ground. They're buried under red tape, hundreds of kilometers from any infrastructure whatsoever or any workforce to be able to work them. Mining them takes decades of planning, billions in development, indigenous consultation, environmental review, rail, roads, processing plants, and a government that actually wants to friggin' build something. And I'm going to tell you, it's not your prime minister. Alberta, on the other hand, is already ready today. They've got pipelines, refineries, expertise, international clients, and the muscle to move product. No wishful thinking, just real output. Imagine losing that as a country. Wake up, Liberals. And if Alberta walks, don't be surprised if other provinces follow, like Saskatchewan or parts of BC. This isn't just a Western tantrum. It's a federation on the verge of breaking apart. This is something we need to take very seriously as a country, and we aren't doing that, especially our Liberal government. They shrug it off like it's not going to happen. But to my friends in Alberta, your anger is justified. Your patience has been tested. Your sacrifices have gone unthanked for far too long. But before this country fractures for good, before we let a government that never understood Alberta rip the heart out of our confederation, let's remember this. Canada isn't the Liberal Party. We said this in videos last week. Canada is not Mark Carney. It wasn't Justin Trudeau. It's certainly not Chrystia Freeland. It's all of us. It's the men and women in the fields and the rigs and the shops and the small businesses who build this country up every single day. And if we can just find one iota of that courage to rise together, then maybe, just maybe, we can fix this problem federation before it's too late. So let this stampede not be about tradition and rodeos. Let it be a wake-up call. Because, truthfully, we love Alberta. Who doesn't love Alberta? We need Alberta. And if Canada has any hope left, it starts with fighting for every single province, not punishing them for daring to be strong and to stand up to a banker in a suit. Canada is not Ottawa. Canada is all of us. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. It helps grow the channel and it helps to get the message out wide. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.